chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavan was asked two specific questions. We will do that in the end, but just to, because these are the concluding answers Bhagavan is giving, it is very important for us to sort of go back to how the conversation had started. What was actually Arjuna's question to Bhagavan? He said, "My Lord, I know you are Param Brahma. That is the Lakshya. What is the Lakshana?" And he sort of has mentioned that Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham, Shaswatam, Divyam, Adi Devam, Ajam Vibhum. And he's saying that it's not that I'm trying to flatter you by saying all this. This has been said by the great monks, the great, most wisest of souls, all the rishis and Narada, everything. Yeah. Asito Devalo Vyasaha Swayam Chaiva Brabhisime. Oh, you have also yourself have said it in the previous chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Now, having said Bhagavan that this I know about you is hinting that I personally haven't fully grasped the meaning of these words. That you are the Pavitra Dhama, you are the Parama Bhavan, Purusham, Saswatam, Divyam. I have understood. He's kind of paraphrasing all that he has heard about what is that Purushottama, Parameshwara Tattva. And then he's saying, Swamevatmanatmanam Bethatvam Purushottama, because you are so difficult for anybody to know who can know you. Because we are, as you have mentioned, that the devatas, the rishis, the daityas, nobody can know you. Why? Because they came much after. Because it's all they are your creation. How can the creation know the creator? So I will also not know it, but Bhagavan has hinted that even though gods and rishis cannot know me, you can, because of a benefit you have because of your bhakti yoga. I have a special liking for you that Bhagavan has hinted. And then he's saying, kindly tell me a sesena without leaving anything, without sesa, without leaving some sort of thing which I haven't fully understood. Okay. Then the two critical questions which he raises are in verse number 17 and 18. What are these? Katham vidyam aham yogin swam sada parichintayan. That is one important thing. How do I actually do your upasana? Vidya here is how do I know, but how also sort of meditate on you. Then he says, Keshu Keshu Chabhaveshu. One is a general question. How is it possible to meditate on somebody or something or an object of meditation which is beyond the knowledge, beyond the knowable possibilities of rishis and maharshis? You are very difficult to understand. Then you are saying that I can get liberation only by meditating on you. You mentioned that in chapter 8 and 9. Now I'm asking you, please tell me in detail. Keshu Keshu Bhaveshu Chintyoshi Bhagavan Maya. What are the forms I can focus on to meditate on you? Right? So Vistaranatmana Yogam Vibhutim Cha Janardana. So these two aspects he wants to know. He wants to know Bhagavan's how his grace, his magical powers creates this whole cosmos. How is this multiplicity possible when the tattva, the paramarthika satya, is ekam eva? Why this multiplicity? Why this hatred and love and attraction and frustration? Where from it's all coming? You are saying that all these are delusional. And then you have given me certain tricks how to overcome them in chapter 6. Now tell me how this magical process unfolds that we get lost, caught up in the net of ignorance, and then we accept this multiplicity, which is only apparent as true. That is one critical question he's saying. The second one is also tell me about your vibhutis, right? Vibhutis is that how in multiple forms you manifest, what kind of energy and grace. Bhuyah kathya triptirhi sunnuto nasti me mritam. It's such your nectar like words. The more you hear, the more thirsty you feel. And I absolutely haven't been happy, even though you have already finished 9 chapters. That's what Arjuna is saying. Keep these two questions in mind, yoga and vibhuti. These are the things. And what are the ways in which we can meditate on him? Now, then you look at all the slokas, they'll fall to place. Bhagavan has mentioned that the prakasatmaka, luminous, reality of the sun. And if you look at that yoga aspect, that what is that sukshma tattva and how it manifests, that manifestation secret is here, which he mentioned guhyatamam in chapter 9. He has mentioned in brief, in summary, whole of chapter 9 and part of chapter 8 summarized in just one sloka here, the 20th verse of the 10th chapter. What did he say there? Ahamatma gudakesha sarvabhuta sayastita. I am sort of present in everything. I am jantaryami. Aham adishcha madhyam cha bhutanam anta eva cha. So I am the beginning, I am the middle, that is their sthiti, and also laya. And then he goes on, and suddenly he says the same thing. He mentioned that again. Where did he say that? He said that also among the he had also in the 33rd second he mentioned sarganam adirantascha madhyam cheva hamarjuna adhyatma vidya vidyanam vadaha pravadatam aham. So this is also one very secret thing he's mentioning. He's revealing a secret here. And this secret is truth oriented. It's not about meditation. This is vicharatmaka. Why is he mentioning that? I'm that vadakatha, that conversation which leads to satya nirnaya, tattva nirnaya, paryanta vadakatha. And adhyatma vidya, the science of the self, that is what I am. If you're looking for me, look here, he was telling, Keshu Keshu, in what are the forms in which I can meditate on you? And Bhagavan mentioned about a whole lot of things, not only material, he also mentioned a lot about the subjective aspects like Dri, Chama, Sri, a lot of things did he mention, the subjective aspects also. And he had also dealt with this in the ninth chapter, if you remember clearly. And then he mentions the subtle aspects of reality, like manas. Among the indriyas, I'm manas. Okay. And so, having said all that, he finally is coming back after mentioning the vibhutis. He's sort of coming back to again dealing with the key secret aspect of his lila. The one becomes many, and we have this whole multifarious myriad realities emerging before our eyes in the cosmos, right? And therefore, in 38, he had said, "Dando damaitam asmi, niti asmi jigi satam, maunam chevasmi guhyanam jnanam jnanapatamaham." Then he's saying that among that particular, there are a lot of people, our parents, our teachers, outsiders, they try to discipline us. Gurus, they want to correct us. And he's saying, I am that punishment through which people come back from wrong path to right path. Punishment isn't physical. It's kind of shock or a kind of a setback in whatever form God wants to bring us back on track. Niti Rasmi Jigishatam. And he's very clarifying that if you want victory, you cannot be violating the moral code of conduct for victory. You have to adhere to it. Otherwise, your victory will be very superfluous, it will be very apparent, it will be illusory, it will come and go, it will not have any real basis. Then Maunam Chevasmi Guhyanam, the people who are into yoga and meditation and everything, the wiser ones who are looking for Sukshma Tattva of life, the subtle aspects of life they want to understand. They have that Mauna thing. And what is that? They have complete control on their speech. They have control over their speech. They speak in a measured way. They speak what is relevant. They don't speak anything which has nothing to do with truth, because the rest of it is considered a lie. Whatever isn't focused on truth is all a lie. Then he says, Jnanam Jnanavatamaham. If you're looking at, because he sort of mentioned that I'll give you Jnana, the Jnana Sahita, right? In chapter 9. I'll give you Jnana, sorry, chapter 7. I'll give you Jnana with Vijnana. The Vijnana is what? That Anubhava. Jnana is what? Tattva Darsana, the basic thing. That I'll give you along with experience, the know-how aspect, the technical details I'll give you. Bhagavan has mentioned that. So this particular, he's saying that if somebody has actually reached that state, I am his jnana. So what is he trying to say? that when a person has Atma Jnana, he's a that Jnanavat, isn't it? Jnanavatamaham. So among the Jnanavans, among those who have this Atma Jnana, when can you have Atma Jnana? Vedanta has made it very clear, Tattvamasi, you are that. So when the mind matures and begins to see the unity of everything, the unity of Jiva and Brahman, then isn't Ishvara already in his consciousness? He's there. What does he have, that Jnani, in his consciousness? What he has is Jnana. That's why we call him Jnani. And what is that Jnana? That Jnana is Ishwaramaya, Vibhumaya. Why? Only when he realizes everything is one. That means what? Jiva Brahma Aikya Bhava. He has realized it. Then only he is Atma Jnani. So Bhagavan is saying, you pick up such a guy, I am his Jnana. What does that mean? That filling material, that filler which transforms an ignorant in the wisest, is awareness of God. That is awareness of divinity. Focus on meditation. Then I have already mentioned that in Bhagavad Gita, any spiritual literature, whenever any lakshana is mentioned, that is sadhana for the dull students like us. So a bright student, what does he do? He gets up at 5 o'clock. The teacher says, he was a bright student, used to get up at 4:30. Why is he saying that in the class? He is telling you indirectly, you should all get up at 4 o'clock. So when Bhagavan is saying, I am the jnana of the jnanavan, the jnani, what is he trying to tell Arjuna? That look here, the more and more you meditate on me, the more and more you will grow up as a person who may be described as a jnani, because when your ego drops off, your consciousness is only of me. Whatever you are doing, you're not doing without being aware of me. Phenomenal reality. You may be traveling in a train, and the ticket collector comes and says, "Show me your ticket, you and show me your iCard. Won't you do that?" I'll say, "No, I'm just thinking about Brahman." No, you do it. But while doing it, you are not losing your awareness of the Atman. So, in that sort of a situation, when a person has reached that state of Jivanamukti, I am his Jnana, I am his Chaitanya Swarupa. That is what Bhagavan, we have done the Tikas, he mentions. And then he is now summing up in the next 4 verses. He's trying to sum up this chapter. So, at one go, I'll try to do all these, or maybe two each. I can do two each. And then, yeah, let's do two each. So, he says, यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तदमहम् अर्जुन तदहमर्जुन न तदस्ति विना यत्स्यान् मया भूतं चराचरं नान्तोऽस्ति मम दिव्यानां विभूतीनां परन्तप एष तुद्देशतः प्रोक्त विभूतेर्विस्तरो मया. So now Bhagavan is trying to conclude. You have asked that I should tell you the vibhutis vistarena asesataha, without leaving anything. I want the whole story. I want the details, not the summary. Bhagavan is saying, come on, I can tell you only mukhyataha, that he had already pradhanataha. He had already given a disclaimer in the beginning that you cannot, because that is kind of endless. My vibhutis are endless. That's what he's kind of mentioning the verse number 40th. Before I come to 39, he's saying, Na anta asti mama divyanam vibhutinam he parantapa. Parantapa is, Arjuna was such a fierce fighter. He could torture, defeat, vanquish his enemies. That's why it's called Parantapa. Na anto asti mama divyanam vibhutinam he parantapa Arjuna. That's what Bhagavan says. Please don't try to pick up a quarrel with me. Don't try to be a moody boy, because there is no end to my vibhutis, my greatness, and therefore I have mentioned to you a few things. How? Esatu uddesataha. There's a specific purpose as to why I just mentioned that. Prokta, it's all mentioned. Vibhuter Vistaro Maya. So, you know, my vibhutis are kind of endless, infinite. But I have just sort of mentioned you a few. Why? Because I have in my mind your spiritual requirement. What is that requirement? Arjuna, that is all of us. We want to meditate on Bhagavan. Why? We want to overcome the delusion and its debilitating impact, ignorance and its weakening impact. By meditating on Bhagavan, he has explained why that helps. We are finding philosophically this para prakriti, apara prakriti, and how this all manifestation happens, and how Bhagavan is that Guhyatama Tattva. In ninth chapter, he mentioned that everything is in him, he is not in anything. Then he says, no, nothing is in him. It's a relationship between Akasha and Vayu Mandala, the atmosphere and the sky. It's like this, a little philosophical, isn't it? We find it difficult. So Bhagavan told us how to meditate. Why didn't he mention, for example, among the very difficult people for that matter? He only picked up some good examples like the lion, the Makara. These were perhaps one or two irritating ones, but rest of them, like Daitya, Prahlada, Bhrigu, he's all picking up positive characters who were able to overcome the limitations imposed by their birth to realize the goal. He gave such examples. Also, he has given the lion and the shark, these are violent animals, aren't they? He's mentioned about them because he's mentioning about whatever you see as excelling in nature is due to my grace. See divinity everywhere. The only way to see divinity is to stop looking for an opportunity to meet God because you are no different from God. You are looking for, that famous Kabir song, Pani mein meen piyasi. The fish is in water and it's feeling thirsty. Who is stopping you from drinking water? You are an aquatic animal, but the fish is very thirsty, and then it runs around everywhere saying, "Where can I get an ice cream? Where can I get a glass of water?" No, you just drink. You are in water. So everything is Brahman only, but we keep running to these gurus and tithas and all other things. So Atmajnana is the central truth. That's what Upanishads say, and Bhagavad Gita says the same thing in several other words. So Bhagavan now clarified that these details which are mentioned are not endless and they have a specific purpose, and that is meant to enable us to fruitfully meditate on that divinity. But before that, the Nirupadika secret. This whole secret is to how the samsara has become manifest, because he mentioned about things which are visible in samsara. You might get a little confused, isn't it? Oh, so Bhagavan is lion, Bhagavan is shark, Bhagavan is Bhrigu, Bhagavan is Narada, Prahlada. These are limited beings. How can Bhagavan be these limited beings? Like some gurus say that, he's Bhagavan. Oh, really? So before that fellow's birth, was there Bhagavan? And they will get very angry with you. He's supreme person. I agree. So before he was born, there was nothing in the world. No, he gave us light. Now I understand he gave you light, but was there any light before he came? But the mind wants to literally understand things. So lest we get confused that Bhagavan is trying to identify himself with whatever appears as powerful or good or magical or attractive, Bhagavan clarifies that he is not saying literally so, and therefore he mentioned Yat chapi sarvabhutanam bijam tad aham arjuna. So I am the bija rupa, whether it is the lion or Rigu, or I am the causal factor, and not real causal factor. It is an imaginary causal factor. Why? Bhagavan is nirvikara, nirakara, nirguna. So how can he be cause or effect of anything? He's not cause or anything. He's vivartavada. We are accepting that a particular thing looks opposite. Like water and sunlight, suddenly you see a rainbow, or you see what you call the mirage, a lake or something you see in a desert. Similarly, all this is appearing, and Bhagavan sort of clarifies it that this creation is actually a grand appearance. He has already hinted that. Therefore, he is saying, Yachapi sarvabhutanam vijam praroha karanam. What is bija? There is a plant coming up. It comes out of what? That particular seed. It hides the potential growth of the tree. It hides the potential tree in a tiny material called the seed, isn't it? So that is what the magic is all about. So this little thing is what is hiding this whole potential expansion of something into a big grand tree in the form of seed, which is very tiny to recognize, and the differences and everything. Nothing is actually visible, and yet what happens? We see the grand tree emerges out of that seed. That Vija I am. Tad aham Arjuna. Now, this Bija can be visible or invisible. It can be material or non material. When it's a little material, it is the Astadha Apara Prakriti. And sometimes it may be completely subtle and then it becomes Paraprakriti. That we have discussed in the earlier chapter, chapter 8, he has mentioned about that. Yachapi sarvabhutanam bijam tad aham arjuna na tad asti vina yat syana maya bhutam characharam. And therefore, there is nothing which is not manifest, which is not apparent on earth. There is nothing as such which is apparent, which is not having me as the Vija. The seed form lies in my grace. So everything that manifests with my permission, my approval, my grace. Right? These are the two verses. So let us look at different sort of commentaries. So let's look at first uh, our great Sankaracharya. Yacha api iti yachapi sarva bhutanam bijam praroha karanam tad aham arjuna. So I am the cause of their growth. You know, out of nothing, from pralaya, they again take birth, and this is a particular kalpa which starts. Prakarana upasanghartham vibhuti sankhepam aha. So he sort of is very summarily he mentions his vibhuti. Na tadasti bhutam characharam charam acharam ba. So there is no bhuta vastu. You remember earlier, right? So why bhuta word is referring to the living ones, the Chetana Varga. And Sarganang he mentioned, Sarga word he mentioned for the, you know, uh, lifeless ones, the Jada Varga. So here what he's saying, Natadasti bhutam characharam, chara or achara, right? So what about plants? They cannot move around, isn't it? Human beings can. So both have life. So chara achara, charamba, maya vina, yat syad, whatever, yasyad bhavet, whatever can have, maya apapristam, परित्यक्तम निरात्मकम शून्य ही तत्स्याद अतो मदात्मकम सर्वम ityartha. So what he's trying to say is that look here, he is not a person who is ready to accept that something real can come out of nothing, out of sunya, like some Buddhist sort of give this theory that actually everything is sunya, right? They think that there is a grand vacuum, and out of that grand vacuum what happens is there is a sanghata happening in our mind, aggregate of sanghata of our previous desires and sanskaras, and these complex sanskaras are actually appearing before our consciousness as manifest realities in layman's language, because it will take a lot of language to get into that. Shankaracharya is saying that is not acceptable to us. Okay, that this whole thing is sort of existing and it's all false now. Therefore, he is saying that there is a foundational root cause, and in fact, that in a way is the major departure from Buddhist theory, because Buddhists sort of say pratyuta samatpada, so everything is kind of in interdependence. So they will say the flower doesn't exist. How, you will ask? They said, look, swabhavena na tishtati, this flower exists. As what? As petals, and petals exist as what? Then some, biochemical substance. You go on and on, then you have, then you will go, and then that is dependent on something else. That is dependent on something else. So everything in the universe or cosmos is dependent on something else. So they have this theory of what they call dependent arising. Everything is dependent on everything. But fundamental reality is Sunya Eva. But the Sunya is not absence. Sunya is they are saying Buddha nature. So we don't, in a way, they are more or less talking about the Upanishadic truths. Of course, a lot of people will not at all agree with what I'm saying. But broadly, they are not using any, they are influenced by the basic ideas of Upanishads without using the word Atma or Brahman. Try to understand it like this. So we are saying that this whole multiplicity is manifesting out of one unified field or reality called Brahman or Atma. These multiplicities are emerging and manifesting. Are they real? No, they say not real. Vyavaharika, yes. Phenomenally, they're true. Fundamentally, they are not true. Like you have black hole. Where do the planets and Earth and suns and moons go? They all become energy fields, and there is no proof that there was how many stars were there in that particular black hole. We don't know. So a lot of things sort of turn into that black hole field, which is just with a lot of energy, gravitational energy, but no clear sign of any material aspect to it. Okay, so here, what Sankaracharya is saying that Bhagavan is establishing fundamental tenet of Vedanta by saying that all these manifest realities, in fact, have a foundation. That foundation is Atma or Brahman. Let us understand it like this. Okay, so he's saying Vina. So that is what Sankaracharya is saying. So therefore, nothing can exist without me, like Sunya or something. Sarva Bhutanam Bijam iti anena Sarva Bhutani mam vibhutihi iti darsitam. Tadeva upapadayati na tadasti iti. That is Madhusudana Saraswati is explaining that Sarva Bhutanam Bijam. Why is he saying that I am the root cause of all these living realities called plants and animals and birds and humans? Why? He's saying that in order to explain this fundamental point. What is it? Mat vibhutihi iti. All these realities, chara and achara varga, the bhuta varga, whatever you see, all because of my vibhuti. Understand this is an aspect of my vibhuti, my magical manifestation capacity that's taking shape. Tad eva upapadayati. Maya vina bhutam kimapi nasti. Without me, you cannot think about a bird or an animal or a human being. No one is there without me. They are there because I am there. The film you can watch on a film screen, and the film can go on because the film screen is there. You cannot talk about a film without the film screen. You cannot talk about a phenomenal reality without its foundational aspect. And that is Brahman, that Bhagavan says. Right? And he's saying Upadeyasya Upadanam Antarena. Just imagine you want to have some ghee. Can you have some ghee without milk? No, you need no, but ghee is not milk. Now, agree, we agree that ghee and milk are different things. You want to make ghee, a purified butter, you need milk. Then you need to sort of extract the cream out of it, and you need to purify it with heat, and then you throw the carbon, and you filter and keep the pure ghee with yourself, and relish the sweet smell of it and medicinal qualities thereof. So you cannot talk about ghee without milk. Similarly, you cannot talk about sansara without Parameshwara. In simple words, that is what it is. So Upadeya and Upadana, the material cause. What is out of which you are having a laddu? It's what? Sugar and ghee and some besan, gram flour, isn't it? Without that, without milk, can you have a rasgulla? No, you can't have. So the Upadana contributes to what is Upadaya, whatever you're extracting out of it, isn't it? That is what explaining Sambhava. So this is what is broadly there. But I found that Ramanujacharya kind of has given a very beautiful explanation. So I would, because we have time today, we don't have time constraint. We'll be able to finish the simple two more verses. So just look at Ramanuja. Okay. So please listen to me. I know that you may not be having books with you. I'll explain to you in its simplest terms. Sarva Bhutanam Sarvavastha Avasthitanam. So different living beings, whether it's a plant or tree or a bird or animal, they are in their specific life situation. Tat tat avastha bijabhutam. And all their physical realities, in whatever form they are there, what is the seed of that? Pratyamanam. And what is that appearing, that seed form? What is that? Apratyamanam cha yat. So this seed or the cause of that may be visible, may not be visible. Like for example, dharma, papa punya, they are not visible. You can do anumana. अच्छा वो आदमी पिट गया, अच्छा बहुत पाप किया था. Okay, so he got accidentally humiliated. He had done all good work. Somebody humiliated him. So what do you maybe purva papa? Somebody suddenly gives you a very good lunch or a reward. How does it happen? Okay, you have done some punya. Why else he will come and spend money on you and love you and this and that? So this is how we infer about the presence of papa punya in our life. But it's not pratyamana, isn't it? Similarly, this Bhagavan is Bija Bhuta, is the causal form, may or may not be pratyamana. If it's the physical aspect, paraprakriti, okay, maybe pratyamana, aparaprakriti, pratyamana, but the paraprakriti, you have to sort of make a judgment. The actual thing, no, you cannot see in any form, okay. Therefore, he's saying बिना यस्यात् न तद अस्ति अहम आत्मा गुणाकेश सर्वभूता सयास्थितः. What is the proof that Bhagavan is not misleading us? Or there is no conflict of what Bhagavan is saying and what he has said earlier. There is a coherence, there is continuity in his speech. How? Please listen to the verse number 20th. He had mentioned Aham Atma Gudakesha. Sarvabhuta Sayastita. Yeah, I have already told this to you. I am only repeating it here for your easier understanding. Iti prak prakramat na tadasti. Therefore, because this is how I have started my whole discourse here, without this, nothing. Without me, that Vija Bhuta Rupa, nothing exists. Tat syat maya bhutam characharam. Iti tatra api atmataya avasthanam eva vivaksitam. Now, this is another beautiful thing. A lot of people say Ramanuja is a Vaishnava. Actually, he is Advaita also. That is Visishta Advaita. That Bhagavan has Purushottama Rupa. He is the Karta. It's not a delusional aspect. But he's saying something very interesting. What is that? He's saying that हम लोग जितने सारे हैं, our existence is true as existence of the self. We exist Atmatvena. A self, if you're saying I exist, I'm immortal. Really? How? Because I don't recognize my body to be me, my education to be me, my name to be me. But I recognize my soul, my Atma, to be immortal because of the Vedic education that I have received. If a person says, what do you say? You definitely respectfully look at him and appreciate what he has said. Similarly, Bhagavan says that Atmatvena, all our avasthas, the superficial outside manifestation of our existence, which appears, this apparent, whatever appears is not true. What is true? Atmataya avasthanam eva vivakhitam. Actually, we are existing as self, and that is what is vivakya. That is the purpose of his statement. Sarva vastu jatam, sarvavastham. So all these avasthas, sarva vastu jatam, there are different, cause and effect relationship and chains. Maya atma bhutena yuktam syad ityatah. Whatever here exists, obviously, I am the cause of everything. Anena sarvasya asya samanadhikaranya निर्देशस्य आत्मतया अवस्थितिः एव इति एव हेतुः इति प्रकटयति. And that's why there is a universality among the plants and human beings and animals and birds and everyone. What is that? Atmatvena. We all exist. Avastha, material, apparent, visible are all different. Actual avastha, what is the real avastha inside? Atmatvena avasthitam. That is what is. And that particular thing is what? There is equality amongst all of this. What is common to all of us? If the highest common denominator you want to extract amongst all of it, what is that? One word, Atma. That's all. Rest is all addition. Okay, so that is what that general whatever denominator, that is Atmatvena. So we'll go back to our this is what is the verse number 9. In 48th, what is saying that yad iti. What did he say in the Nantosti mama divyanam vibhutinam parantapa. There is no end to my vibhutis, which are divya, which are very magical, which are divine. Esatu de satah prokta vibhutera vistaro maya. I have mentioned this, I have already explained. So what he is saying in the verse number 10 is, 40s is, na anta asti iti nantosti. Mama divyanam vibhutinam vistaranam parantapa. So there is no end to my infinite grace, my magical powers. Nahi Ishwarasa Sarvatmana Divyanam Vibhutinam Iyatta Sakya Vaktum Jatumba Kenachit. Nobody Jatum Kenachit. Nobody can know in how many ways and means God's divine grace manifests. It's not for us to know. The details, no, we cannot know. So we can never know. He's saying what? We can never know in two ways. He mentioned that. Vaktum Gyatumba. Neither can you talk about it, it's avachya, nor can you know, it's avang manasa gochara. Neither through the mind nor through your words. You cannot reach there. Right? Divyanam vibhutinam. Esatu uddesataha ekadeshena prokta vibhutir vistaro maya. I've just mentioned this whole sansara, the manifest is that will come in the next verse. It's Brahman's only ekapada. Chatuspada Brahma, Ekapada is whatever is visible in this cosmos. What are the rest 75%? Amrita Divi. That is the pure, that is what is subtle, that you cannot know. Right? So that's all. Now they're talking about dark matter and string theory and all kinds of things in physics, isn't it? A lot of things sound very Vedantic in a way. So, see, broadly, this is how he explained. And if you look at Madhusudana Saraswati, he's not adding anything great. उद्देशतः एकदेशेन विभूतेर विस्तरो maya proktaha. And then he stopped I'm not I looked at Nilakanta. Okay, Madhusudana, what does he say? Madhusudana says here, give me 1 second. Yeah. Prakarartham upasangharan vibhutim sankhepati. So he sort of sankhipati. He sort of summarizes all his vibhutis. After talking about the chapter, he has explained everything. He parantapa paresam satrunam kama krodha lobhadinam tapadanakaha. Parantapa means what? You burn, you torture. What do you burn? You actually, whosoever is coming to have a fight with you because of his greed or anger or fame or craving or whatever, or bad lower natures, you put those qualities to the test of fire with your arrows. You defeat him. So you are parantapa, he's saying. Tapatanakaha, you torture them. You put that to test. Mama divyanam vibhutinam anta iyata nasti. So there is no end to it. They're infinite. You cannot control them. Ataha sarvajnanapi sa na sakyate jnatum vaktumba. Even though wisest sarvagya is only Bhagavan, no one else is sarvagya. But if you have in a gauna artha, like you say, this guy is Serhe, this guy is a lion. Similarly, if you find a guy who's very wise, even he cannot talk about me, right? And that is what he's mentioning. And okay, so this is broadly this. And is there anything? Okay. So broadly, this is it. And then in the verse number 41 and 42, we will do. तत्तदेवावगच्छत्वं मम तेजोंससम्भवम् अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन. No. यद्यद्विभूतिमत् सत्त्वं श्रीमत्पूर्जितमेव वा तत्तदेवावगच्छत्वं मम तेजोंससम्भवम्. So just look at it. Yad yat vibhutim vibhuti mat sattvam. Whatever is there, sattva, that vastu jata, whatever appears, whatever is existing. Vibhuti mat, and that is that it's carrying that vibhuti of mind, vibhuti mat, sattvam. And what are these? Srimat Urjitam. Urjitam is, like powerful. And Srimat is that grace, that beauty, Lakshmi Bhat, Evaba. So, whatever you see in this universe, which has been graced by my blessings, is endowed, is bestowed with my grace, and you please understand that Vibhutimat Tatta Deva Vagatsattvam. You please understand tattal, all those things that come to your mind. Like, for example, you meet an angelic dancer who dances very well, or you see Lata Mangeshkar or Subbalakshmi, who's a great singer, classical singer. Whatever you come across, tattat eva vagacha, you please understand, janihi tvam mama tejongsa sambhavam. Mama teja angsa sambhavam. It's fraction of my luminous greatness. Mama Teja, it's my brightness, it's my divinity. A tiny fraction of my grace and divinity, when it becomes expressible, when it becomes manifest through a certain action, an object of creativity, or human being, or plant, or anything, you will see magic there. You will not be able to accept that it is possible. You look at a bird like the peacock. How beautiful are his feathers, isn't it? How beautiful. You will go to certain scenic places and you say, oh, this is divine. Why? Because the best painter cannot even fantasize that such a thing can exist, but God has created it. Look at some of the flowers, isn't it? And God has created that. And similarly, even you look at some of the very bright students, you look at Beethoven. He couldn't see, he couldn't hear, but he composed such great things, isn't it? How could he compose? He was blind. How did he read these notations? That is what is divine grace. So he's saying, you please understand that out of a tiny fraction, Teja Angsha Sambhavam, it's possible because of that. And then in the next verse, he's saying, Athava Bahuna Etena, Athava Bahune Tena, King Gyatena Tavarjuna. Even if you want to know everything. You ask me this childish question. Oh Lord, tell me Vistarena Ases Ataha about all your vibhuti. Why? Because they are like nectar. The more I take, the more I crave for it. They are like the tastiest chocolates I have ever thought about of having or is possible to have. You are like, your words are like this. So I'm not happy. Go on talking about your greatness. Bhagavan says, no, that's a wastage of time. What will you know about the details? Please understand. Vistavya aham idam krishnam ekanksena stito yagata. Why don't you, my boy, understand that this whole universe that you are fascinated by and you want to hear about how my vibhutis are manifested through them, do you know one thing? It's only about a tiny fraction of me. It's one angsa of me, that one ekapada. That's what this whole vast, infinite, physical, cosmic reality, physical or psychological, whatever you look at it, that has come to you is real. You are getting confounded, frightened, afraid. You want to see me everywhere and you are wasting time. What did you do, Ante? You please understand this yoga, that Aishwarya that I have, that magical power that I have. What is it? That I, having become the foundation, Vistavya, I become the dhata. I kind of the foundation. I've become the kind of that particular platform on which all these are appearing. Krishnam ekanksena stito jagata. So all these is kind of in only one part of me because I'm infinite. So all that you see is nowhere even close to who am I, how vast I am. So don't waste your human resources as a thinking person to grasp me intellectually. That is the message. Meditate on me, meditate on this aspect. God is infinite. Let's surrender to Him, let's love Him. Let's not cloud ourselves with rational questions and curiosities about who is God, His multiple names and forms. These are endless. That is what He says to him. And let's look at how Sankaracharya kind of interprets them. So he's saying, Yad Yaditi, Yad Yad Loke Vibhutim, Vibhutimat. In Loka means in Sansara, in your Lokika Jagata, Yad Yad Vibhutimat, whatever has that Vibhuti of mind, Vibhutimat, Vibhuti Yuktam. So it is kind of, bestowed with my Vibhuti, Sattvam, Vastu Jatam, whatever physically exists, with qualities and things like that. What are those things? Srimad Urjitam Evava, so that Sri, that beauty, grace, and also power, Evava, Sri Lakshmi Taya Sahitam, उत्साहोपेतं वः तत्तद् एव अवगच्छ त्वं जानीहि मम ईश्वरस्य तेजो अंशो संभवम तेजो अंश एकदेशः संभवो. That is how he explains yasya tatta tejo अंश संभव iti avagaccha tvam. Please therefore you understand that I am a much much vaster, limitless, nameless, formless reality. And in one portion of it becomes the foundation, then the whole cosmic universe, which frightens you, confounds you, whatever you are knowing about your physics and chemistry and everything, is kind of subsumed in that whole grand thing, that knowledge universe and the material universe. That's only one part of me that manifests. There are many more things. You don't need to waste your time. Please understand the connectivity, how that happens. It happens because of my sweet will that these all are happening, because Bhagavan has said actually nothing has happened. Because of your ignorance, you are seeing all this. It's like, I'll give you a very funny example. You must have seen that in some films. So what happens? This is a lot of people joke about it. So what happens is one guy has taken some intoxicants. Then he is taken to a hospital, and the hospital doctor has to talk to him. There's no other way he can give him some medicine, and he's talking. So what happened? He says that, I was coming and then I saw an elephant. The elephant asked me for a cigarette, and I got very angry, so I kicked it. And when I kicked it, the elephant sort of picked me up and threw me, and sort of threw me sort of thrust me against a tree. And then I got stuck and I went up, and there was a swimming pool, and there was a lot of water there. I started swimming, and I met a person. He said, "This is water, very cold," and therefore they were having some drinks. I also started drinking with them. It's not my fault. Actually, I have not taken any drinks. It is that lake water on the tree where the elephant forced me to sit, threw me onto that. That lake water was something which has affected the way I think, sir. The doctor says, really? So you should not go to that lake again. And next time, if you meet the elephant which asks you for cigarettes, then you tell him that Dr. Saab is very angry and he's going to give you some injections. But right now, I'll give you one injection. Then the doctor gives him some sedative so that he falls asleep, or he sort of recovers, isn't it? So he deals with the story, because if he doesn't believe in it, that particular guy who is under intoxication is very unstable, he'll feel very bad. So the doctor doesn't try to irritate him, create a complex situation. He tries to help him recover. So Bhagavan is not saying all this is false, this, that, because That will come much later when we are ready for that Vedantic secret. Right now, he's just saying that, okay, you meditate on me. These are all vibhutis I have mentioned. But the secret part is that you see that these things are appearing because of my grace, my vibhuti. That much you focus on. Details don't waste your time. That is how Bhagavan is trying to sort of make him happy. Now, here, and yeah, so if you look at Madhusudana in the 40th and 41, what he's saying, yatadadi anuktam api, whatever I have not mentioned. Somebody might ask one thing, okay, so the bhutas you have mentioned, what about jadavargas and other things? Are they also creations of you? That's why Bhagavan sort of makes it very clear. What he says here is like this: Anukta api bhagavato vibhutihi sangrahitum upalakshyanam idam uchyate. Therefore, he sort of comprehensively says everything is created out of me. Means all is appearing on me. I am the foundation. But remember, I'm not the physical foundation. He has clarified in verse number 4, 5, 6, chapter 9. And we have to remember that. Yad yad sattvam prani, whatever exists, all the living beings, vibhutim, Aishwarya Yuktam Tatha. So all the people, somebody is handsome, somebody is like the lion, is very powerful, Vrigu, Narada. He mentioned either Srimad or he's that Urjavan, right? He mentioned all that. The lion is Urjavan, and then Srimad, a lot of people who have that intelligence. Sri Lakshmi hi Sampat Sobha Kantirva Tatha Yuktam Tatha Urjitam Baladi Atisena Yuktam Tattad Eva Mama Tejasah Saktehi Angshena Sambhudam Tvam Avagacha Janihi. So whether you see somebody is very beautiful or very powerful, he is very rich or very cunning or very smart, what do you look for? You say, okay, he's old Papa Punya, God's grace, this is a cocktail. He is appearing, he's dancing, he's singing, he's very rich. Nothing to get worried about. Fundamentally, nothing is true, anyways. Right? That is why he's saying that originally all this, I am the bija, I am the seed. Are you interested in any of these? If you are, you have to realize what seed out of which you are made and what is the nature of the grace which is working on you. What was your Papa Punya? What do you want to be? And if you do as I'm advising in Bhagavad Gita and you have that Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, slowly I'll pull you out of the mess you're in. That's what Bhagavan is telling us here. So this is it's over, but there is in Ananda Giri, okay, in the and then in the verse number 20, 42nd, what he's saying, Uttamadhikarinam uddishya aha. Then he's talking about the smart students who are intelligent. इसको तो बता दिया आप मेरे से सब हुआ है ऐसे करके meditate करो. Then he's talking about the intelligence ones. अथवा बहुना बहुनेतेना अथवा. If you are a better student, you can meditate on me. Nirupadhika tattva. Then this is how you do it. अथवा इति. मूढ़ान प्रति एतद uktam त्वम tu edavadeva vidhi. So he's saying that why don't you you are a brighter student, why you want to meditate like others on the vibhutis that some people worship, maybe a very powerful guy is avatar of Bhagavan. Don't waste your energy, you are a much brighter student. The ekang sena, he's saying how ekang sena, that is what uh, Nilakantha is explained. Ekang sena Ekadesena aham idam distabhya vyapya stito asmi. So it's out of that one part only I have done, and then I'm existing here. You meditate on that aspect. Athava bahuna etena adina kim gyantena Tavarjuna Syat Savasesena Saw Avasesena, because you are looking at the physical, material, objective manifestations of my vibhutis. These are endless things. Why don't you look at the Nirupadhika Rupa of mind? Then he's saying Asesa Tattva Asesa Asesataha Tvam Tvam imam uchyamanam artham shrunu. So please understand this. Asesataha. What is that comprehensive? Details cannot be asesataha. The subtle sukshma satya can be asesataha. So if I want to describe to you the whole sansara, there is no end to it. But I say that, okay, this jagat has come out of God. That's one sentence, but comprehensively explains. So Sukshma Satya can be comprehensive. The Bahya Satya can never be comprehensive. That is why he's saying, you please understand what is Vishtabhya Vishesataha Sthammanam Dridham Kritva Evam. So I'm just holding this whole thing as a foundation. I'm the Adhara. Everything is Adhaya. Adhya. Please don't forget 4, 5, 6 of chapter 9. You have to remember that. This Adhara Adhya Bhava is not a physical connectivity, he has clarified. So we cannot forget that and make sense of it. Please remember that. Tutva eva Krishna Jagat Ekansena Eka Avayvena Eka Padena Sarvabhuta Swarupena Ityetat. So all these material realities, whatever, is just one step of Brahman, of Parameshwara, Ekapada, of Chatuspada Brahman. तथा च मंत्रवर्णः पादोश्य सर्वभूतानि इति स्थितो अहमिति. So in Taittiriya Brahman, that is there, and then he sort of comes to an end. And if you look at the Madhusudana, he sort of expands it a little, and let's look at that. Evam evam avayavaso vibhutim uktva sakalyena tam aha. That same thing, sakalya is that sakalata, sampanna, comprehensive, total story. Athava iti pakshantare. Bahuna etena savasesena, as he has done it, he is dropping it. Jnana king tavasya. तुम्हारा उससे क्या होगा हे अर्जुन इदम कृष्णम सर्वम जगत एकांशेन एक देश मात्रेण विष्टभ्य. Okay, so it's all in ekadesa, that ekapada vistabhya vidritya vyapya. I sort of pervaded everything. So aham sthita. So I am there. You know, udasina vadasina, how is it possible? That we are also discussing that Srishti is not real. That is why udasina vadasina is possible. But here there's another interesting thing saying. The Shruti says only ekapada. It's like, you know, the baby is playing, the mother is keeping an eye on the baby, but she is doing several other things. Because what the baby is doing, the mother knows very damn well what is the extent, what the boy can do. She has set limits, the baby keeps playing, the mother does several other things at home. Similarly, Bhagan sort of runs this whole show without getting trapped in any of this. That is what is the, you know, descriptive way of explaining it. The Paramarthiya way of explaining it is that this whole game that we're talking about is only Leela, and it's only an appearance, fundamentally nothing to be serious about. पादस्य विश्वभूतानि इति श्रुतेः तस्मात् परिच्छिन्नं दर्शनं त्यक्त्वा. ये so said, you know, God as Narayana, God as lion, as Bhrigu, as Narasa, as Maharshi, Prahlada. What are these rupas? Parichinna, limited. What is the aparichinna? The nirupadika. These are sopadika with name and form. Drop the name, the divinity with name and form. Focus on the divinity without name and form. Sarvatra Brahma Buddhim eva kurbita ityasa. So kurbihi, kuruhu. Why, what he's saying? Please, you do Sarvatra Brahma Buddhi. Sarvam Vasudevam iti buddhi kuru. You see everything as Vasudeva. That is how we have sort of come to this chapter, end of chapter 10, as our standard practices. Maybe tomorrow we can do a rehash, short about half an hour, and then we'll start the chapter 11. Because now he has explained to us his vibhutis. Now Arjuna will say, even ask even more childish question. He said, no, I want to see that. All these vibhutis. So Bhagavan has to show it. We'll do the Rupa Darshana Yoga, 11th chapter. We'll stop here. Any questions you can ask, I'm putting an end to the YouTube thing.